Welcome to Linguistics Tube. On this channel, you will find videos about learning English, as well as more scientific videos about linguistics and psychology, and more general academic topics such as study skills, conducting research, and writing academic articles. This episode is part of my series which explores how to write effectively in English. We will learn about a range of skills which you can use generally, and I will also share my advice for specific writing exams, such as TEM-4 and IELTS. Specifically, this episode is part of my mini-series about the TEM-4 exam. Here, I will discuss the entire 2017 writing task. Throughout, I will show you some examples from both the summary section and the opinion section written by my students. Here is the article from the 2017 exam. In red, I have highlighted the most important information. Changing technology increases intelligence only if it challenges us. Would that make us less intelligent? Artificial intelligence is taking over many human jobs. Artificial intelligence can outperform humans. Machines will do more of our thinking for us. Starved of mental effort, our brains will regress. Like I said, this is the key information that you must include in your summary. However, if you want to provide more context, you could briefly include additional information from the article, like the examples of automatic pilots, playing chess, and the electronic assistant. During the exam, when you read the article for the first time, you should highlight or underline the most important words and phrases, like I have done here. This will definitely help you to write the summary, because it will help you to focus on the most important information. The reason that I recommend you to spend 5 minutes reading the article is so you can engage in active reading by underlining, highlighting, and circling words and writing notes next to the paragraphs. At the end of the 5 minutes, you should know the article inside out. Based on the key information that I highlighted on the previous page, I believe that 5 pieces of information need to appear in your summary. Let's have a look. Firstly, changing technology only improves intelligence if it challenges us. This could also be summarized as, changing technology makes us less intelligent if it doesn't challenge us. These essentially have the same meaning. The first paragraph refers to both of these, especially in the final sentence of the first paragraph, which asks a question that the rest of the article attempts to answer. Because you must not write rhetorical questions in your summary, you need to rewrite it as a statement. Remember, even though I have included both of them here, you only need to choose one of them for your summary. Secondly, artificial intelligence is taking over many human jobs, autopilot and air traffic controllers. I have included the article's examples here. You can choose to include them or exclude them in your summary. You can see that I abbreviated automatic pilot to autopilot, which is a common abbreviation. Thirdly, artificial intelligence is outperforming human beings in many areas: playing chess, writing poetry, and writing novels. Again, I think including the examples from the article helps our understanding of each point. Fourthly, smart machines, as e-assistants, will gradually replace our thinking. You can see that I abbreviated electronic assistants to e-assistants, which is a common abbreviation. And finally, our brains will regress if they are no longer challenged. Point 5 is included in the article as a conclusion, but point 5 and point 1 are very similar, because point 1 is like the thesis statement and point 5 is like the thesis echo. Because of this, many of my students' summaries did not include point 5, or combined it with point 1. I think that is a very good idea. In fact, I think there are two options. Either include the first way to say point 1 and include point 5, or include the second way to say point 1 and don't say point 5. That's because the second way to say point 1 and point 5 are essentially identical. Regarding the order of the points that you should use in your summary, you will need to decide the most logical order based on your understanding of the points. For the 2016 article about term time holidays, the chronological order of the points, or in other words, the order that they appeared in the article, was not the most logical order, and so I suggested a different order for the summary. However, for the 2017 article, I believe it is fine to follow the chronological order of the points. This is because newspaper articles rarely follow a logical order. However, the 2017 article feels more like an essay than a newspaper article, so it naturally uses a more logical order. Specifically, the first paragraph feels like an introduction, the next three feel like argument paragraphs in the body section, and the last paragraph feels like a conclusion. In this section, we will look at several summary sections which were written by my students. Whenever you see a grade, you can use this table to understand it. Basically, a type of 70 means that the summary is acceptable, but it has some significant problems which lower the grade. A type of 80 is good, or even very good, but there are a few minor weaknesses. Finally, a type of 90 means that it is excellent overall. Firstly, because I don't want you to only listen to my advice, it is really important to look at TEM-4 essays from other sources. So, let's have a look at a high-quality summary from the real TEM-4 exam, which was released by the exam organization. Therefore, this answer was written by a real student during the real exam, and it has not been changed in any way. I will read it, then please pause the video and think about these two questions. 1. How many of the 5 pieces of information can you find? 2. What is good about it, and what could be improved? According to the excerpt, our brains will regress in a world run by intelligent machines for the reason that artificial intelligence takes over many human jobs and can even outperform humans in some aspects. Moreover, machines will do more of the thinking for human beings as they upgrade, thus making life easier and people lazier. I have underlined the important points and written their numbers next to them. As you can see, all the important points have been included. Points 1 and 5, which are very similar, have been swapped, but that is really not a problem. If this were one of my students' summaries, I would give it 92. I'm impressed that the writer included all the points in only 53 words. To achieve this, the writer did not include the optional examples and combined points 2 and 3 into one sentence. I also think that the first 4 words, according to the excerpt, are unnecessary. Therefore, the summary could have been even more succinct without them. I also really like the fact that the writer did not repeat or copy the words of the original. To get a top grade, remember that you must paraphrase the summary, which means to repeat the meaning but use different words. From this summary, I hope you can see the importance of identifying the important points and writing them in the best order. Next, here is my summary. This is not necessarily the best possible answer. Instead, it is simply the best that I can write, and it includes all of the important points in the chronological order of the article, which I believe is the most logical order. I'll read it now. Changing technology only improves intelligence if it challenges us, so we may become less intelligent in a world run by machines. Already, AI has taken over many human jobs, autopilots and air traffic controllers. Also, it is outperforming humans in many areas: playing chess, writing poetry, and even novels. If intelligent machines, such as e-assistants, replace our thinking, our brains may regress. In my opinion, it is simple, systematic, and succinct because it delivers all of the key information along with a few examples to make it more interesting. It is 63 words, which is comfortably within the 60 to 65 words that I recommended. Let's now look at my students' summaries. Firstly, I will read each one. Then, please pause the video and answer these questions. Firstly, which important points are included in the summary? Secondly, what is good about the summary? Thirdly, what could be better about the summary? And finally, what grade would you give it? Will our brains get lazy with intelligent machines? For the writer, it wouldn't happen, because machines can take over our job, make our lives easier, and it also has many features of what a modern life should have, so that we will have more energy to regress our brains. A grade of 72 means that it is barely acceptable and has several significant weaknesses. Firstly, it begins with a rhetorical question, and so it feels like a hook. This must be avoided in the summary paragraph, which cannot include an argumentative tone. Next, a few of the important points are missing, and it includes information that was not in the original article. Also, the writer misinterprets the meaning of the original article because it clearly states that we will become less intelligent. However, this summary states that the article claimed the opposite. Finally, there are several significant language problems. The final sentence is particularly strange and is difficult to understand. Nowadays, with the developing of technology, our lives are being better and better. But someone consider that in a world run by intelligent machines, our brains will get lazy and make us less intelligent. On the one hand, artificial intelligence is taking over many human jobs. Actually, it frees us from some dangerous works. On the other hand, intelligent machines can already outperform humans in some areas, which used to thought to be human advantage. Should we be worried about the problem of brains regressing? My answer is no. A grade of 75 means that it is acceptable overall, but has some significant weaknesses. The first weakness is the opening sentence is unnecessary. It is a typical introductory sentence, which would be appropriate in the opinion section. However, in the summary section, you must not begin with an introduction. Instead, every sentence you write must be a summary of the article. The next major weakness is the final two sentences, which joins a short introduction of the opinion section to the end of the summary paragraph. In the episode about the 2016 TEM-4 essay, I warned against doing both of these things. they are significant weaknesses which will guarantee a low grade. Fast developing artificial intelligence is making our life easier. It takes over many human jobs and is embedded in many aspects of our life. With time going by and artificial intelligence making greater progress, will our brain get less intelligent? This summary feels succinct and simple and does not begin with an unnecessary introductory sentence. However, it still has some significant weaknesses. Firstly, it is too short and thus omits some of the important points. Secondly, it ends by asking a question. This is appropriate in the opinion section, but not in the summary section. Thus, to be clear, do not write questions in your summary section. Thirdly, the summary fails to capture the overall tone of the original article, which felt negative and like a warning. However, this summary feels rather positive. Overall, this is why it gets a grade of 78. In a world run by intelligent machines, artificial intelligence can take over many difficult human jobs. For example, air traffic controlling, which human beings can't do well. Meanwhile, it's involved in modern life and acts just like a real man at times. Furthermore, those smart machines are now doing more complex thinking for our lives to simply get much easier. This summary is definitely written by a student with a strong English writing ability, and overall feels much better than the previous summary. However, 82 is the highest possible grade because it shares the same problem with the previous summary. Specifically, even though the original article has a very negative tone because it is warning the reader about the dangers of intelligent machines, the writer of this summary included nothing about the negative aspects of intelligent machines. In contrast, the summary sounds very positive. For this reason alone, it gets a low grade because it shows that the writer did not fully understand the article when summarizing it. Nowadays, artificial intelligence is everywhere around us. Obviously, artificial intelligence has already been a part of our lives. On the one hand, artificial intelligence make our daily activities easier, and we are relying more and more on artificial intelligence. On the other hand, people are still worried about the negative impact brought by intelligent machines. For instance, whether our brains will get lazy with intelligent machines to do the thinking. I would like to show you one more summary with a grade of 82. This is very different from the previous summary and gets the same grade for different reasons. The first weakness is the opening two sentences, which are rather vague and not a succinct summary of the first important point. Secondly, the writer's approach is to present both sides of the topic, the positive and negative aspects of AI. However, this wasn't the approach of the original article, whose tone was negative about AI overall. Thus, it does not summarize the article in a valid way. Remember, keep your summary as simple as possible. Summarize the important points only. Advanced technology tries to think like humankind and gain more intelligence. Artificial intelligence can do many of humans' complex jobs. Aeroplanes could fly automatically, and traffic could be under a best controlled by AI. What's more, AI can also defeat people in chess, writing poetry, and novel. Maybe one day it can truly become our life assistant who knows our thinking. With all the planning and organizing done by AI, human brains would get lazy. Here is a summary with a grade of 85. 85 is the average grade in my classes, so this is therefore a satisfactory summary. I really like the inclusion of the examples of how AI is taking over jobs and outperforming humans. However, there is a lack of succinctness in a few places, and the opening sentence is not exactly a summary of the original article. It feels more like the writer's viewpoint. Nevertheless, this is the first summary we've seen that is overall good. It can easily be fixed to get a higher grade. Humans' brains will be challenged and become lazy as the artificial intelligence getting smarter, because machines will occupy many human jobs, replace us in some creative areas, and do the thinkings for us. In these points, human needn't to deal with complex problems and live a simpler life, which will be a result of lazy brains. A grade of 88 means that this summary is above average and is very good overall, but has one or two weaknesses. The content and succinctness is very good, but a few language problems lower the grade. For example, the second sentence, because, is a subordinate clause, so it must be joined to the previous sentence with a comma. It cannot be a separate sentence. Also, the phrase, in these points, can be removed. If these were fixed, it would easily get a higher grade. Our brains will get lazy with intelligent machines, for artificial intelligence is replacing human jobs, outperforming humans in many areas, as well as doing more of our thinking. In a word, our brains will regress when we stop challenging technologies. Here is a summary with a grade of 92, which means that it is excellent, but one or two small problems prevent it from getting a top grade. It includes all of the important points and is extremely succinct. Perhaps it feels a little too succinct. Also, the grammar of the last few words could be improved to when we stop being challenged by technology. Our lives get a lot simpler in a world run by intelligent machines. Nowadays, artificial intelligence is taking over many human jobs and even already outperform humans, such as automatic pilots and air traffic controllers. They're getting smarter and doing more of our thinking for us. At that point, being starved of mental effort, our brains will regress. This summary received a grade of 95, which means that it is excellent overall. It is succinct, it contains the important points, and the language is very natural. In a world run by intelligent machines, our lives will get simpler, with worries that our brains may get lazier. Artificial intelligence is taking over many human jobs and embedded in many aspects of modern society, simply for it can perform better than humans, even in some most challenging areas. Electronic assistant will do thinking and deal with the difficult tasks for us, making our brains lack mental effort and finally regress. Finally, here is one more summary with a grade of 95. This is also excellent, despite one or two language issues. I was very impressed with my students' opinion sections. Overall, there were many strengths, which tells me that they have used the feedback and activities to improve their writing. Nevertheless, I do feel that their opinion sections were overall weaker than the 2016 essay, but that is not surprising for two reasons. Firstly, the 2017 topic was new to them because we did not analyze, discuss, nor practice it over several lessons. And secondly, I'm sure they will agree with me that the 2017 topic is much more difficult than the 2016 topic. There are 3 ingredients to any successful piece of writing: structure, content, and language. Structure is a skill that we can learn through practice, because as long as you know how to structure an argumentative essay, you will be able to apply this structure to any topic. Language is a skill that you have developed over many years, and so you will automatically be able to use your ability in any situation. You will bring both of these to the exam, already fully prepared. But content, which is the quality of your reasoning, which includes your viewpoint, arguments, and evidence, cannot be prepared in advance, because you do not know the essay topic before the exam. Therefore, planning your essay is hugely important, because you need time to choose your viewpoint, think of 2 strong arguments, and 2 pieces of high-quality evidence to support them. Planning will help you to create a balanced structure and also select the most convincing content. Bearing all of this in mind then, it is unsurprising that my students' structure and language were very good, and that the biggest problem was their choice of arguments. Some of the arguments were very weak or irrelevant, and for other ones, it is easy to create a simple counter-argument. Remember that a counter-argument is an argument which shows that the original argument is weak. I'd like to briefly say something else about the structure of an argumentative essay. In a longer essay, around 500 words, you will probably include 2 additional sections. Firstly, a third argument, and secondly, another paragraph between the third argument and the conclusion, which succinctly explains why the opposite viewpoint is wrong. Like I said, this is very common in longer essays, but you do not have time for it in the TEM-4 essay. As a result, you need to work even harder to ensure that all of your arguments are strong and difficult to argue against. This is why the 2 arguments that you choose must be the strongest, and if you plan for 5 minutes, you will have time to think of them. Here is my advice about what to do during the first 10 minutes of your 45-minute exam. For the first 5 minutes, you must firstly read the exam instructions very carefully. Because of the short time limit, if you don't read the essay instructions carefully, you might not fully understand the task and the topic of the essay. It's very easy for the reader to tell if an essay is discussing a slightly different topic. And if you do this, because you didn't read the instructions carefully, you would get a very low grade. Reading the instructions and writing an essay that answers the question is essential. Secondly, you should read the article. As I said previously, you must not only passively read the article. Instead, you must interact with it by engaging in active reading. To do this, you should underline, highlight, and circle important words and phrases, and write brief comments next to the paragraphs. Your brief comments could be about an important point to include in the summary, or to remind you about something interesting to refer to in the opinion section. I recommend that you use 2 different pen colors. One color to highlight interesting information, and another color to highlight the important points for the summary. After that, you can write the numbers of the important points next to the paragraphs. Most importantly, at the end of the 5 minutes, you should know the article inside out. Next, you have 5 minutes to write a brief plan. Within this time, you do not need to write a plan of the summary, but you must have written the numbers for the logical order of the points next to each point within the article. For the opinion section, you must decide your viewpoint and think of your two strongest arguments. I recommend that you think of as many arguments as possible, perhaps 3 or 4, and then choose the 2 best arguments. Next, you should decide which type of hook to use, and which 2 types of evidence you will choose to support your 2 arguments. Finally, decide which type of so what statement to use, depending on your essay topic. If you do all of this within the first 10 minutes, then the 35 minutes of writing will be much more efficient and successful. In the final section of this episode, we will see sections from my students' 2017 opinion sections. As always, I will show you some strong and some weak sections. So some of these show good aspects of my students' writing, and others show aspects which could be better. Thus, for each of them, I will firstly read it, then please pause the video and decide which part of the structure it is, think about what you like about it, and think about how it could be better. Afterwards, I will share my thoughts with you. As I previously said, it is crucial to fully understand the exam instructions. So let's begin by reminding ourselves of the instruction for the opinion section. Comment on whether our brains will get lazy in a world run by intelligent machines. I would like you to think about the underlined phrase, will our brains get lazy? What exactly does this mean? A deep understanding of this is necessary for creating a successful line of argumentation, and you will need to bear your answer in mind when looking at the following sections. To me, this topic means that you must decide whether or not humans will begin to lose their intelligence and intellectual skills and abilities if AI does everything for us. Therefore, you will need to consider the impact of technology on high-level jobs, such as doctors and scientists. A famous advertisement of Nokia says, "Technology is people-oriented." Exactly. Artificial intelligence is developed for making humans' life simpler, but it is not made for letting humans lack mental effort. Our brains will not get lazy in a world run by intelligent machines. This is a strong introduction as it opens with a relevant and interesting quote. The quote is cleverly linked to the thesis statement by 2 sentences that contain logical reasoning. Once when I entered a supermarket, I noticed an artificial robot guiding a customer to buy something. I was suddenly aware that artificial intelligence has already been everywhere in our daily life. So, will our brains get lazy in a world run by intelligent machines? My answer certainly is no. Our brains won't get lazy, although in a world run by artificial intelligence. This strong introduction cleverly combines 2 hook techniques. Firstly, an anecdote, and secondly, a rhetorical question, which leads nicely to the thesis statement. My only suggestion for improvement would be to make the words of the question different from the thesis statement. Currently, it feels somewhat repetitive. The artificial intelligence is very smart. Years age, the champion of chess got a defeat when he played chess with artificial intelligence. It is said that the intelligence Alphat deliberately lost for one time, and that's the only game that the champion won. So, why not use artificial intelligence to assist us with our life, and our brains can have a rest? At the same time, our brains will have more time for more important things, such as reading, running, or studying. This introduction is weak overall. Firstly, the viewpoint that the writer chose is not relevant to the essay question. The writer chose to argue that AI should assist us with menial tasks, so that we have more time for important tasks. This does not answer the question of whether or not humans will become less intelligent if AI replaces human tasks. This presumably happened because the writer did not read the instructions carefully enough. Secondly, the Hook's example of a machine that beats humans at chess is not relevant to the writer's essay topic of letting machines assist us, because the example demonstrates that machines can replace us. Intelligent machines also need human to collaborate with. It is true that planes are being flown much of the time by automatic pilots, but they also need real pilots to control the whole flying. Maybe artificial intelligence can operate better than human in the complex problem of controlling air traffic, but when the intelligent machines break down, they need human to control the plight. Intelligent machines are helpful to human, while human is essential to control the whole situation. Moving on to the arguments, this paragraph contains a very strong argument, which focuses on the reciprocal nature of machines and humans. In other words, our brains won't get lazy because machines need us as much as we need machines. In other words, machines are not infallible. This is an intelligent and thoughtful argument. What's more, with the help of intelligent machines, we get more spare time and more resource to explore the world, even the unknown part of the world. It is reported that the VR machines are used in some middle schools in China. These machines help students better understand the knowledge and inspire them to think more and create more. Not only students, but also scientists benefit from the artificial intelligence. Humans never be satisfied with the goals we achieved, the things we know. So machines will never stop human from thinking or exploring. Instead, it becomes a tool to help us to explore the unknown world. This is another strong argument, which can be summarized as, our brains will not get lazy in a world run by intelligent machines, because they are a tool which gives us more time and resources to explore the unknown. The paragraph provides two examples of how this happens and finishes with a summative wrap-up sentence. So, both the content and the structure are impressive in this paragraph. Furthermore, we still need to take great efforts to improve the intelligent machines. Technology does not evolve on its own. It requires human brains to continue to perfect it, to fix it. For instance, a man who knows how to operate a computer is brilliant 20 years ago. But nowadays, more and more people know how to program the computer. As the technology developed, humans are required to gain more knowledge and be more skillful, leaving our brain less time to rest. I like this argument because it cleverly acknowledges that this technology has not evolved on its own. Instead, intelligent humans are needed to create intelligent machines, and continually improving them requires humans to become more intelligent. To begin with, human brains are losing some basic skills, such as calculating, by relying on intelligent machines. According to research conducted by Hong Kong University, 83% of the young adults who uses their mobile phones or computers to calculate in their daily life react much slower on calculation than those who use their brains more often. The same situation goes to spelling. Therefore, intelligent machines is doing the basic jobs of human brains and making human beings less capable in some daily issues. This argument paragraph is very well structured and is also very succinct. The argument, that humans lose basic skills when they rely on AI instead of doing it themselves is strongly supported by the result from a scientific study, which is published by a reputable organization. With artificial intelligence doing more of our thinking, our brains will regress due to the lack of practice. As a student, I often plan my day with an app on my mobile phone. After using this app for a long time, I found it difficult to make a plan just out of my brain. My mind got rusty with the dependence on the planning app. However, I am not the only one in this kind of situation. According to a survey conducted by Peking University, 60% of those who use calculators a lot cannot do maths at middle school level on their own. We can see that the use of AI is decreasing our thinking ability. This paragraph cleverly demonstrates how to combine lower quality subjective evidence with higher quality objective evidence. Specifically, the writer firstly refers to his or her own experience through an anecdote. However, because higher quality evidence is needed to get a top grade, the writer reinforces it with a statistic from a scientific study. First, our brains tend to get less sensitive without thinking and training. A study conducted by Peking University shows that the reaction speed of brains will strike 25% lower if they're not frequently active. My father, who works as a Japanese interpreter, also found it would be harder for his brain to recognize unfamiliar words if he relied on intelligent dictionaries for a long time. The statistics speak for itself and proves our brain's laziness. This argument has the same strength as the previous example. Firstly, the writer presents a piece of higher quality evidence to support his or her argument, and then supplants this with an anecdote about her father's personal experience. Occupations in the future is unlimited. It will change and emerge constantly. Undoubtedly, artificial intelligence has taken over most of our jobs, and according to the big data conducted in 2016, approximately 85.6% of the employees are facing unemployment. However, if you think further, you may find that other occupations, such as maintaining the intelligent machine, inputting data into these AI systems, regulating these data, are desperately needed. With so many work, how can we say that we will get lazy? I appreciate this argument because it acknowledges the other side of the debate, but then demonstrates why one of the obvious counter-arguments, unemployment, is not a cause for concern. It is undoubtedly true that, as technology develops, some jobs are lost while others are created. This cycle is repeated again and again, so this argument realizes this and explains why it is not a problem. First and foremost, it is human beings who create, develop, and maintain artificial intelligence. Just as Steve Jobs said, human brains will only get smarter in the creation of machines. Intelligent machines are made by human brains, and they need humans for development and maintenance. In that process, human brains have to make mental efforts and will develop in this way. Therefore, although technology is getting smarter, our brains even develop further to promote artificial intelligence. As I explained in the episode on this channel about writing argumentative essays, there are 4 types of high-quality evidence that can single-handedly support an argument: a theory, the result from a scientific study, a real-world event or phenomenon, or a quote from an expert. Whereas most writers rely on statistics from studies, few writers use quotes effectively. This argument demonstrates how to do it. Steve Jobs can certainly be considered a reputable expert in the field of technology, and so this is a valid piece of evidence to support the writer's argument. Furthermore, intelligent machines are decreasing our passion of memorizing knowledge. Bertie Wooster says, "We can take it easy knowing that the hard work of planning and organizing is being done by a better brain, the electronic assistant. Not only the hard work of planning and organizing, but also memorizing is done by resorting to technologies. For human can search whatever knowledge and get answers immediately on the internet. Few people would like to spend time in remembering it. Thus, human brains are getting lazy in memorizing with the assistance of technology." This argument demonstrates how to utilize information from the article, because it uses a quote from the article as the primary piece of evidence. Remember that the exam instructions encourage you to do this, so if you cannot think of a piece of original evidence, then you certainly can rely on the article to support your arguments. Last but not least, as the article says, artificial intelligence machines can already outperform humans. They can win the human champion on playing chess. But I don't think they have a good grade on mental cure. Nowadays, because of the society development, more and more people have mental problem. Can a machine give a comfort to these people? I think the answer is no. And the data shows that 80% people will prefer to have a human doctor than an artificial intelligence one. This example is a mixed bag. On the one hand, I like the argument and the evidence, but the structure is very poor. Structure includes the order of the points and also the succinctness of the phrasing. Both of these could be better. Firstly, the entire argument could be phrased far more succinctly, which I summarized as, last but not least, there are some highly skilled jobs which we will always prefer humans to do. Secondly, the evidence appears at the end of the paragraph, with no wrap-up sentence to comment on the evidence and conclude the paragraph. To me, it's obvious that the writer did not plan the paragraph beforehand. This is thus a great example of how planning what to write before you write it can produce a much better paragraph. As shown in recent research, nearly 70% of human jobs are replaced by intelligent machines. More and more people lost their jobs, and people who doesn't have an advantage is hard to find a new as well as stable job. In 2017, the artificial intelligence AlphaGo won the first man of world Wei Qi by a score of 2-1. Intelligent machine is getting smarter and can even beat human in areas that once thought as superior by human. From this point, I will now show you arguments that were weak. This paragraph is poorly structured, as it contains two distinct arguments. Firstly, that unemployment is rising, and secondly, that machines are becoming too smart. Of course, you cannot have two arguments in one paragraph. Also, the second argument is more factual than argumentative, as it never explains the negative consequences of machines becoming smarter. The other major problem is that each argument starts with the evidence and then provides the argument. I highly recommend that you avoid this. Your evidence should support your argument, not the other way around. Manage Our Lives by AI gives us more time to expand the interest and focus on brain improving. Scientists in Japan have predicted that in the future, humans' head will be bigger for a more intelligent brain. Human being will spend more time on sports and entertainment for healthier body and study. As people's life being organized, they won't need to worry about surviving. That is to say, human will aim at higher goal and self-exploration. My main problem here is that, while the argument itself is fine, the examples do not fully support the argument. The writer claims that relying on AI allows humans to improve their brains and aim for higher goals, but the examples he or she uses to support this refer to spending more time on sports and entertainment. In my opinion, the purpose of these activities is to essentially allow our brains to relax. After a long day of studying, we enjoy running or watching a movie. Therefore, these examples seem to contradict the argument. More careful planning would have fixed this. I don't think that our brains will get lazy, because there are still a lot of things that should be done by ourselves. For example, communicate with your friend. It's unavoidable and everyone needs that. So we should practice the skills and apply to our daily life. Obviously, the machines can't do it like a real person. According to a survey of GDUFS, it shows most people would like to talk with a real person instead of an intelligent machine. The first sentence of this paragraph refers to the essay's viewpoint, not an argument to support the viewpoint. Assuming that the writer wrote a thesis statement, this sentence is completely unnecessary. The second sentence is the argument, but it is not convincing, because I don't think that communicating with friends is an activity that requires a large amount of intelligence. This is something that the least educated people in society can do well. Secondly, remember that I said previously that you shouldn't waste words showing your opinion. If the first sentence were a topic sentence, then it should not begin with, "I don't think that." It is weak and unconvincing. Thirdly, the poor structure continues throughout the paragraph, as it finishes with the main piece of evidence, yet provides no wrap-up sentence to comment on it. This paragraph was clearly not planned beforehand, and suffers as a result. Besides, our brains are humanitive wherever we are. A 2017 study by Cambridge University showed that intelligent machines couldn't obtain humanity no matter how advanced techniques we put in. So, it is obvious that our brains won't get lazy because the world needs the humanity. I hope you agree with me that this argument is incredibly vague. Humanity is the theme of the argument, but it is not defined nor explained. What does it mean to obtain humanity? What does "the world needs humanity" mean? After reading this paragraph, I have more questions than answers. The topic sentence also confuses me, because humanitive is not a word. Reading this argument reminds me of another piece of advice I'd like to give you. Because you don't have a phone or a dictionary, I recommend that you do not attempt to write about difficult concepts and words that you are unsure about. It is very likely that you will make a mistake. Therefore, simple arguments and wording are much more effective. There are some works that only people can achieve. According to the study from Google company, artificial intelligence is far more away from taking over most of jobs, and it's impossible for it to do the renovated work. It implies that human beings still have chance to think and work out. Therefore, human brains will not regress in future. Of course, when the pressure of an exam without a dictionary, it is easy to accidentally use the wrong word. This is most likely what happened here. The writer used renovation jobs instead of innovation jobs. The words sound very similar, but the meanings are completely different. The former does not require much mental effort, whereas the latter does. Therefore, what the writer actually wrote does not support the argument. Instead, the writer was presumably referring to jobs that do require mental effort, or jobs that we prefer humans to do, such as doctors, counselors, and researchers. However, the simple mistake weakens the evidence, which creates a contradiction between the support and the argument. To move on, though how smarter the machines will be, it can't replace human to think about the emotional problems. A famous scientist named Liu Qiang comment on this issue. The most complicated and advanced creature in the world is human, because they are able to love. Nowadays, more and more fiction is about human and robots' love stories, which are criticized by public, because such stories are against the realities. The Fenghuang TV reporter used to interview the robot which can answer most of the question except the emotional one. So, humans still have to deal with emotional problem in real life, even with such robots. Again, this suffers from the problem we saw previously. The question you need to answer is whether or not our brains will get lazy, not whether or not AI will replace humans. Therefore, you need to comment on whether or not humans will lose their intelligence and intellectual skills and academic abilities. For this reason, it is irrelevant to argue that AI cannot replace humans because it cannot display emotions such as love. This is because the writer is trying to argue that our brains will not regress, but even if they do, we will still be capable of displaying emotions. Animals with less developed brains, like dogs and cats, clearly show emotions. Therefore, on two levels, this argument is weak. You can see that the argument is irrelevant if you use the argument to answer the question of the topic. Our brains will not get lazy in a world run by intelligent machines, because AI cannot replace humans in terms of thinking about emotional problems. It simply doesn't make sense. First of all, men liberating from labor use their brain to think intelligently. Emerson says, "Man is made to think." The ability to think distinguishes human being from other creatures. For instance, Cangjie, ancient Chinese, creates Chinese characters for effective communication. Bulbs are created by technological people for lighting. All these people have done achievements by using their brains. Hence, with intelligent machines replace men to do the tedious, repetitive jobs, men can spend more time and effort on thinking creatively to invent useful tools. Let's look at one final argument. On the surface, this sounds like a convincing argument. The structure is impressive. However, I still feel that the writer didn't fully understand the topic. I can see two problems. Firstly, this argument can be easily refuted, because it argues that throughout history, people have been intelligent and innovative. However, the crucial issue is that this is not a fair comparison to the situation today, because these historical people didn't have intelligent technology to help them. To be convincing, the essay needs to argue that even with AI technology becoming more and more creative and intelligent, humans can still be innovative. But this argument doesn't do that. My second problem with this argument is that it is a huge leap of faith, or in other words, a huge assumption, to claim that humans automatically become more intelligent after not needing to do the basic jobs. I cannot see a direct connection between these two things, so a high-quality piece of evidence is needed to support it. Without it, it is conjecture. All in all, the disadvantages of intelligent machines doing the thinking outweigh its advantages of convenience. However, what I'm talking about is not to stop developing artificial intelligence. Instead, I highly recommend that we should develop intelligent machines to assist our jobs and lives, rather than replace us. I will now show you 3 strong conclusions. I especially like the so what statement here, in which the writer recommends what role AI should play in our lives. This shows that the writer carefully thought about and understood the topic. To conclude, intelligent machines is replacing human brains in many areas, which has brought bad influence. Accordingly, I strongly recommend that the use of intelligent machines should be limited, especially for the teenagers in school. This so what statement is another recommendation, which states specifically where the use of AI should be limited. To draw a conclusion, with AI getting smarter and doing more thinking for us, our brains will regress due to the lack of practice and the habit of dependence. We should keep this in mind, think more on our own, and depend less on intelligent machines. This so what statement is another recommendation, in which the writer gives specific advice on how to limit our use of intelligent machines. This is the end of the video about the TEM-4 2017 essay. If you liked what you heard, then you can find more videos in my writing skills series, as well as other series on the topics of English and linguistics. Thank you for watching.